Welcome you very much to this session, this last morning of EUCAD. It's great that to have you here and that we have all made security this morning. It was a little bit more queue maybe than before, but I'm thrilled to have you all here to discuss around this theme of success factors to make a difference, because that is what we want to do with CCAM. We have heard the last couple of days. And how we can leverage good practices. We have done enough of new lists of bottlenecks and hurdles and things to overcome. Let's see if we now can learn and to identify success factors and see if there are any good governance practices especially for the business model side, and to see how we what is around in the world. So the background to this session is actually a similar session that we held last year in the ARTS conference, which is a US conference for automated road transport, or a symposium rather, that has taken place yearly under the umbrella of TRB. It's typically in California, and there was a session with a similar title as ours here, and I was co-organizing that. Together with one of the co-organizers of this session, Henriette Cornet, and also Billy Riggs from University of California in San Francisco. And some of the outcomes of these sessions was that it is important to focus on real-world best practices. One way we all talk about large scale and larger scale, even here in this forum, I feel it's a very big focus on making things large scale, but actually pilots and small scale projects, they are a way to start. So we have to unveil the operational challenges in this smaller fashion and then going live in larger scale as we have learned things along the way. And then what is needed is to think about AVs as not only a vehicle that is going to be deployed, but also that we may need new service models, thinking more in services, that and I think this is nothing new, but new procurement models will be needed to boost innovation and entrepreneurship. And I was surprised to note that the outcome of our session in the US was that this was especially needed in the US. You would think that they are kind of more entrepreneurial prone in that continent, but this was an interesting observation there. And that new business models are needed. And I think we will touch on these points today. So we thought it would be interesting to discuss this further and maybe have more of a European perspective than what we had in California. What was interesting to note in that session in last year in California was that the technology was not thought as being something that would limit the viability of business. And market readiness was also supposed not to be limiting. Let's see what we find here. And as I think you have heard several times throughout these days, remote is seen as one important enabler to really make impact, but it needs further investigation. So we really wanted to discuss this further, as I said, and I have the pleasure of having 5 distinguished panelists with me here today that will help us have this discussion. So you see the name here, and I'm sorry I missed the age in your name, Torsten, but we will catch up on that one. So you will hear from Torsten Möginger from RMS. He's head of mobility at this company in Germany. Jerian Beukers, who is head of innovation at TPG in Geneva in Switzerland. Emilie Blottier, the corporate project manager at Navia Mobility, based in France. Manabu Umeda, senior researcher, University of Tokyo, and also involved a lot in ITS Japan. And Adrian Ulysses, I think you're based in the UK. You seem to have very many geographical locations, but representing Uber Transit, where you're the global partnership lead, and you will give quite a global perspective, I think, or adding a bit of US flavor to this discussion. So who am I? I'm Ingrid Skogsmo. I work with the Swedish National Road and Transport Research Institute, VTI, obviously then in Sweden. And with me, co-organizing and also actually acting as rapporteur here is Dimitris Milakis from DLR in Germany. We are co-leading Cluster 6 of the CCAM Partnership, Societal Aspects and User Needs, and we're obviously super interested in this theme. And the co-organizer of this session is also Henriette Cornet, Urban Innovate in the US. She could unfortunately not come here, but she is with us in our mindset. So, just to get a warm up and to try out whether it works with Slido or not, here is a question for you all. Can you put one word of what you think signifies the success of an AV deployment? We will not have too many Slidos, but this is one that I thought would be very interesting to see what kind of words pop up here, because I think there may be a...
Sorry, the QR code doesn't work because it's got the line of the screen going across it.
Ah, interesting.
We had this problem yesterday.
Okay, so...
Well, we couldn't get it to work yesterday. Your phone was intelligent than mine.
Okay.
I just had to code it.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind bothering with putting in the code, so we can get, otherwise I will poll a couple of you. Good, 7 participants are typing, that's perfect. Utilization, public engagement, broad availability. Okay, this is an interesting point. I think word clouds are great. I don't know why it doesn't mix itself all across in different directions, but wow, yeah. Anything surprising that pops out here, you think? Sustainability. Oh, there were several of you maybe. Yeah. Okay. Oh. Give it a couple of more. So all these participants that are typing can finish, because I think this is interesting to see. Patience. Yeah, somebody talked about evaluating projects not after, what was it, 18 months, but every week, and adjusting. I wonder how that goes with the patience of deployment. Okay. Keep typing. We will not throw away this Slido, but very good. Anything that sticks out? Any reaction? More than patience? I think all of these are important words, and we will come back to this later on. Several of these points, and definitely we will use this in our Cluster 6 work in the CCAM partnership. I think this is super useful to see. Thank you for that. So that was the warm-up, and now let's go to the real thing, maybe? Return on investments. Okay, business models, here we go. Is there a chance we can get to the next slide? Very good. So with that, we'll go into the presentations. And so we will have 5 presentations of different aspects. And following that, we will discuss, all of us. So I think that was what we agreed, that we will have the yes, we will do presentations, because I think that there is so much smart things and they may also touch upon each other. So let's do the presentations, and then we have a discussion, all of us, with the panelists. So Torsten Möginger, please take the stage and give us the info of what Kira is about.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. I'm Torsten Möginger, as Ingrid introduced me. I'm working for a PTA in the Frankfurt Rhine-Main area, and we are working on autonomous mobility for a while now, starting with the little steps and small projects with our automated shuttles from EasyMile and Navia. Taking the first steps, but now moving on to the Kira project, and I will talk about it in a minute. But first, I would kind of give the context where we stand today, because as we already saw in the word cloud, a lot of these words are related to what we do in public transport, and that we have to have a kind of mobility solution for the people regarding all these points that were mentioned. So our vision is that autonomous mobility, driverless, seamless, and so on, has to be made in public transport, and that's I guess also the European focus on this topic that we should have. But when we look in other continents or countries like the US or China, they are already on the road. And the question is, what do we do that we get to this point and really leverage the technology that's already there? So we have the examples, and we talked a lot about, in this conference about Waymo and also WeRide, but we see 2 different strategies there. The one from Waymo is more to focus on US first. Of course, we also see the announcement with Tokyo, but it is mainly focused on the really high dense metropolitan areas in the US. And on the other side, another strategy, the expansion of the technology and services that the Chinese companies will provide. We see that they also come into Europe, in Switzerland, in Zurich, and Canton of Zug, and also Pony AI launching a robo taxi service in Luxembourg. So there is kind of something happening also regarding these technologies coming to Europe. One too fast. And that's kind of the comparison. And the actual lack that we see is the investments in that technology. And in Europe, we don't see any technology provider that is able to keep up with the Chinese and American companies, because they have the money, the tech companies, to spend it, to invest in the technology, and they are far away in testing and also commercially drive vehicles and enabling a mobility service where they provide it. Of course, Waymo, Zoox, for the American players, and as I said, WeRide, Pony AI, and Baidu, which are the main players in China. And We actually have one level 4 technology provider in Europe with Mobileye, working together with Volkswagen and in our project with the Neo vehicles, but it's just testing and not commercially on the road. And to our minds, it's very important that we see it that this way, that the technology race actually is decided. There are technology players, probably, or maybe there will be some development, but it is really hard to kind of catch up with these players and their advancement. And therefore, we should rather develop a unique European USP within these services. So we should develop the APIs. We should focus on the services around the technology, combining ride pooling software or getting hands-on the operation that is needed, the technical supervision, and so on. And that's what we're trying to do within Kira. Yeah. We are testing regular operations with level 4. We have, as I said, Neo vehicles on the road in Germany. According to the federal law, we have 6 vehicles running on the streets with regular road traffic speed up to 130 kilometers per hour. Of course, it's testing approval, so we have a safety driver on board. But also we want to have the feedback from a closed user group and also testing the technical supervision. It's very important to have a strong partner setup from technology side, also from the political and industry, science and consulting, but also from the public transport organizations within the, that's fine, within the whole public transport system. But I guess we can skip the slides and maybe I'll get my points then in the discussion.
Did you miss an important? Did you miss an important point you wanted to make still?
Actually, just the model regions, I guess that's the right way. We have to focus on large scale, and I mean a lot of vehicles in the fleet that we kind of can measure the effects on how effective these fleet operations are in the end, and how much we can profit from the technology at the end. And the last one is kind of, that's our plan to the next steps, that we have a technology test now. We will work on another technology test and then starting with deployments of larger fleets and also different autonomous driving systems and vehicle sizes. That's it.
Thank you so much. You actually did a good job of introducing the whole topic here for us as well, to frame the situation with the competition from other sides of the world. So thanks for that. Next, Jeroen, now we are in Lars and Mars ground here, so that looking forward to hear about that.
Exactly. Good morning all. Thank you for attending this session. So I work at the public transport operator in Geneva, Switzerland. I'm not going to have a discussion on CCAM road safety. I'm not interested in this. I'm interested in use cases, business cases. I try to make it short. I have 5 minutes time, so I hope it's going to work out. Public transport, how does this work? Well, in the morning I transport people from home to work and from home to school. Then my vehicles drive empty back to get other people. In the afternoon, I do the same, but in the inverse roads. And the rest of the day, well, my vehicles, they don't do anything. they are standing still. Now I have AVs. And with AVs, I can drive, let's say, 22 hours a day. So maybe I am going to use my AVs for other things. Is this the right slide? Yes. I can use them for the transport of goods. So I'm going to combine this. What I'm going to do is that I already have an on-demand system, a DRT system, where people like you and me can order a vehicle which picks you up here and brings you to your destination. And then for companies, I have a separate application, which is TPC Cargo. They can use it to transport goods. I don't want to fill up a vehicle completely with goods, so no Zalando boxes inside. I want to have a container, which I move inside, and I bring from A to B. That's the idea. So you can see it here on the dots, how it's going to work. Now, it is very interesting to do this, because public transport costs always money. Yeah, it's always loss-making. Yeah, it's the governments who pay me every year 400 million, yeah, to keep it working, and that's only in Geneva. And there's less and less money for public transport. So we have to combine this. Yeah. On the other hand, logistics service, they make money. So would this be the use case we are looking for? How are we going forward on this? I have a small video which will show you how it's going to work. Just for your first video. Well, that was the short video. I hope you understand what we are doing a little bit. It's not that we started today. We started 7 years ago within the framework of the Avenue project, where we deployed 4 Navia shuttles. And due to this project, we get involved in the Ultimo project. where we will deploy 15 vehicles on an area which is about 100 square kilometers, where we have 1,800 kilometers of routes, and a multitude of stopping points. And then the next step will be that we are going to work, or hope to work, in the flagship program, where we can then add another 35 vehicles to have a fleet of 50 vehicles. This is what we try to do. I just want to make add one thing on the discussion yesterday in the flagship program. I think it's very good that we develop level 2 and level 3 technology for private cars. But there are a lot of people who do not own a private car. They also need mobility. We, as a public transport operator, we need to provide more and more public transport for less and less money. So we need to have L4 vehicles. We are doing this. There are several locations in Europe. They're also working on this. We have to have your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaren. All right, we will move on, and you talked about Navia, Jaren, and now we will hear from Navia itself here by Emily Blottier.
Yes, thanks, Ingrid. Good morning, everyone. So I tried to be the first one not to hear Ingrid's bell. I tried to do my best, so I will be quick. So I'm mainly the corporate project manager. What does it mean? It means that I coordinate the funded projects. So reasons why I attended those 3 days conference. So I wanted to share with you 3 of our use cases, if it does work. Yeah. So mainly what I prepared is 3 successful use cases where we learn a lot in terms of success, but also in terms of driving forces. That is to say, what are the main objectives of the operators and PTOs when they need to deploy shuttles. And as I wanted to say also is that Navia is mainly involved in developing L4 shuttles for public transport, but we're also having a development for small trucks and goods. So this is exactly what Jeroen just shared from a use case we had together several years ago. Okay, is it good now? So please do not ring your bell, Ingrid.
I have stopped it, so no stress.
So nice of you.
This is just technology. Oh.
Fantastic. Okay, so the first use case was a real service with SLA, that is to say service level agreement, where we deployed with a French operator in a French city near Paris, a real deployment with a real time schedule and respect of the timeline, respect of the speed, and penalties, for instance, if we were not able to respect this SLA. So it was quite challenging. This is the reason why I wanted to share it with you. And we had 3 self-driving shuttles with a creation of a devoted line for this exercise. So technical challenges, because there have been a lot of those, were mainly detection of the environment via V2X communications, roundabouts, crossing intersection with department roads. So I would say here the the main challenge was really technical and how to act in a real service with a real deployment of public transport. Then we shall move to the next use case. Sorry, went too quick. Yes, so it is the TPG one that we had in Avenue, and then still now in the Ultimo project, where we are also involved with TPG. So here we focused more on the system deployed with a fleet management software and a dynamic mobile app with 75 different stations and an extensive map and a track length of 9.2 kilometers. We were in a complex door-to-door without timetable contacts, and here we were more in a challenge of integrating public transport ecosystem in open road with an extensive site, but with controlled speed on site, cohabitation with other users, that is to say pedestrians, cyclists, vehicles, buses, and so on, and connection to the PADAM's on-demand platform to create a real door-to-door mobility service. And finally, another use case, this time in Japan. So here we were in a different use case. It was a long, it is still, because it is still running, it has been extended for 2 years. So we are in a long-term project associated with the mobility need and funded by the city's own funds. So here it is to ensure transporting means in aging and depopulated areas, improving circulation and accessibility at transport hubs, public facilities and shopping malls, optimizing operations through on-demand services. And here you can see that we have the opportunity, because of the duration of this, let's say, use case, is the mileage experience since 2023. And this is a good example because it was at the beginning a 2 years project that has been expanded for 2 new years. So it is perhaps not what we can call a large-scale demonstration and turning into exploitation, but it is already an in-between situation that we should also take into account. Okay, and I have still 3 slides because what we learned, so I was not able, of course, during those 5 minutes to share all our experience, but I just wanted to make a focus on one of the driving forces that we noticed is the driver shortage that public transport operators meet at the moment. So the shortage of drivers continues to undermine the road transport sector. It is currently a shortage of more than 233,000 drivers. And if no measures are taken, studies say that it would double to over 745,000 by 2028. So it is something that we also, as an OEM, should take into account. And I also wanted, because we have talked a lot about this during the 3 days conference, but it is absolutely true. So I just wanted to insist a bit more on this. It is, of course, the user acceptance. And when we just answered the Slido question, it was main after sustainability. It was the second biggest answer. Of course, user acceptance, according to us, is one of the key success factors. I think I have no time to discuss further on this. I hope we have the opportunity to discuss all together with the other panelists of this user acceptance topic, where we are all working a lot in Navia. And yes, thank you.
Thank you so well, so much. And yes, you managed well your time. Yeah, this is a record. Great. So with that, we are actually, you were already in Japan a little bit, Emily, but now with Umida-san, we will really go to Japan and get some more inspiration from there. So let's see.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Manabu Umeda from the University of Tokyo, and I'm also the collaborative research coordinator of the Mobility Innovation Alliance Japan. From my side, I very briefly introduce the pilot test situation in Japan. Actually, Japan has a target to deploy the automated mobility services in around their 50 locations by the fiscal year 2025, which is this year, and deploy the more than 100 locations by fiscal year 2027. So Japan is very actively promoting the automated mobility services as a pilot test. And as you can see in that figure, that now there are many of pilot tests deployed almost throughout Japan. And regarding the vehicle types, there are various types of vehicles like golf cart type and the shuttles and minibus or mid-size or large-size buses are deployed. However, many of the pilot test cases still operated under the SA level 2. That means the driver is still required. And also, many of them is still operating just providing the one vehicle per test site. If we consider the sustainable mobility services, I think that scalability is definitely necessary. So I regret to say that just only deploying the one vehicle per test site is not sustainable. But in some areas, they are deploying with their multiple vehicles in the long-term deployment. So I'd like to pick up the two good examples like that. Okay. Oh, sorry. First case is Sakaimachi, which is Emily-san already mentioned a bit, but please let me emphasize again about these activities. As a background, Sakaimachi had a strong mind of the crisis that the town will decline if nothing was done, because in Sakaimachi there is no railway station, therefore they are facing the very poor public transportation. And then they decided to introduce the automated mobility services, and the local government has a very strong leadership to cooperating with the AV operating company. And as Emily-san already mentioned, they got all of their operational budget. Actually, they got the budget by utilizing the so-called their hometown tax donation program in Japan, and also there are some subsidies by the Japanese government. And then they started the operation in that November 2020, and they started from just one route with their 3 Navia shuttles, but they are expanding the mobility services. And as you can see in that figure, now they have the total of the 8 vehicles and on the 3 route, as you can see on the map. And the second case is the Gift City. They started automated mobility services in November 2023. And one of the key points of this activity is that they have a bit long-term vision. When they announced to start the automated pilot test, they also announced they will continue the automated mobility services until March 2028. So through this almost a 5-year deployment, they will try to achieve their level 4 operation. And in order to achieve that, the little bit long-term plan, they are very closely cooperating with their Gift City's public transportation planning. Actually, in Gift City, they set 4 major center zones, which is the railway station, as you can see in the bottom of the number 1 mark on the map. And the second area is the Yanagase area with the number 2 on the map. And the third one is the Tsukasanomachi area with the number 3 or number 5 on the map. And the fourth one is the Gift Park City, that is the Gift Park area, number 7 on the map. And the automated mobility is positioned as a means of connecting these 4 center zones. And actually, this gift hut bus is pretty much well exploited by the local residents and the travelers. And as a result, the Gift City just achieved carrying over more than 60,000 passengers just this month since they started its operation. So that's pretty much of my presentation. But finally, give me a second, maybe still not the running. That's okay. So, sorry. Is going back. Regarding the international workshop in Japan, which I'm organizing. Mobility Innovation Week Japan 2025 will be held in the second week of November around the Tokyo area. And in that event, we will try to visit some area where the automated mobility services are deploying, like Sakaimachi or Gift City. Actually, we visited the Sakaimachi in the Mobility Innovation Week Japan 2023, and we visited the Gift City last year. So if you are interested in participating in this event, please feel free to contact me after the session, or please check our Mobility Innovation Alliance Japan website or LinkedIn page. We are very welcome for your participation. With that, I finish my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that we are getting a very good picture of a couple of different applications of shuttles and, well, or AVs. And now we will get an additional view from Adrian.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for attending our session on business models. So my name is Adrian, and I work for a small transport technology company you might have heard of, Uber. But I work within a division of Uber called Uber Transit. And Uber, generally, our biggest competitor is private car ownership. And this is the same competitor of public transportation. And so what we thought at Uber was, how do we collaborate with public transportation to compete better against private car ownership? And that's what Uber Transit is all about. We partner with transport operators, transit agencies, and train companies to help make public transport a little bit better, a little bit more reliable. But today I'm going to talk to you about a business model that we think that we can deploy. This business model we've already deployed today, and we think it could be a foundational element that will support the faster adoption of autonomous vehicles. So the business model is really focused on shuttles, on-demand buses, or DRT. I'm going to use the catch-all term shuttles for this little speech. We did a study in 2023 of about 500 DRT schemes across Europe. And we found that 40% or up to 40% of rides were unfulfilled. And even on the best schemes, it's around 90-95% ride fulfillment. And that sounds good. But if you think of it from a customer perspective, that's 10% of the time I might not get a ride. So that journey reliability is not great. If my car only worked, 90% of the time, I'd be changing my car, I'd be changing my bike. So why do we expect people who use public transport to use such services? Lots of schemes don't allow real-time booking, and lots of schemes have shortened operational service times, purely from a cost perspective. So there's some real challenges around on-demand services. However, it's a cornerstone of deploying public transport in suburbs and into rural, so low-density suburbs and rural areas. And this is one of the big reasons of why there's a real challenge in this space. You see on the chart, you've got demand, and then you've got the time of day at the bottom. And with these types of services, you are deploying a set number of vehicles, and you're trying to get the number of vehicles right to size the right type of fleet to manage that peak demand at the top. Often you're never able to, and therefore that's where you get the unfulfilled rides. Equally, at times of low demand, the cost per ride is prohibitive. And so that's why you have this reduced times of operation. And what we've done is we've deployed this in a number of different cities in the US, where we call this the mixed fleet business model. And the mixed fleet business model is about mixing different fleets together to enable a highly reliable service, which means you can reduce the number of vehicles that you operate, or the public transport operator can operate themselves, and add additional vehicles to the fleet. Now imagine that if you overlaid AVs on top of this. So you'd have multiple different AV fleets, which you could call to service different needs at different times. And this is what we're doing today. So this is Dallas. We've been working with Dallas for 5 years. Dallas, we started off with 5 zones. It's now 32 zones. Each zone has 1 vehicle. That's unusual for an on-demand transport service, because often you have several vehicles to deliver this. But the reason why they can do it with 1 vehicle and have smaller zones is because they have this mixed fleet service. So 70% of the rides are delivered in the public transport's own minibus services, and 30% of the rides are delivered through Uber, all seamlessly from the customer. The customer doesn't even know they're getting into an Uber car. They're using the public transport application. So it's just a seamless service. So it's right pit vehicle, right place, right time. And we think that we've got 6 projects now we're working on in Europe, from Norway to France to Germany. And we believe that this will be a foundational element. So when our AVs are ready, we can manage the different types of fleets to meet that demand. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Have a seat.
I think I'm taking your seating.
Oh, yeah, you are actually.
But no,
You're right. That was the plan.
it was the plan.
Yes, I was so absorbed by your messages here. So. Let me just take this off now. So I think we've heard quite a lot of different aspects of well, on demand and AVs and shuttles and how they are playing out in different parts of the world, and also then the business aspect. I think we have gotten some different views on that. Well, I have a couple of questions that I'm eager to ask, but I prefer that you get the chance first, because you came here to listen and to have a chance to discuss. So feel free to if there are any questions or any comments, anything you would like to bring up.
Yes.
Say who you are first, and then your question. Could I just check, did the mic work now? Everyone heard the question? Well, basically, how do the OEM, traditional OEMs get these business, what is the business models to get the traditional OEMs to work with, in the business models that we are talking about here? Maybe our OEM should respond to this.
So first of all, Navia is not really a traditional OEM, because we do exist since 2014, and we are only developing automated shuttles. That is to say, we're not in any other kind of automation. So it is a bit easier for us, because we are used to adapt PTO's requirements. And it is true that when you are in research and innovation, you always start by trials, experimentations, and also because our core activity is really to develop L4. This is what Jeroen just said. As for public transport, there is a need for L4 automated vehicles. This is not the business model of other traditional OEMs. So we are used to make some kind of tailor-made solutions with a vehicle, with a shuttle. But now we more say the old system as a mobility as a service, with adding services such as remote control center, supervision center. We're also having currently a project devoted to data, how to generate data for PTOs, but also for local authorities, for municipalities, for cities, because when we map, when we have software technology, we collect a huge amount of data, and those data are precious. We can monetize this data, and it will be part of the upcoming business model according to us. And also the importance of having maintenance support, some kind of predictive maintenance, which also helps to collect data. So I would say that we focus on offering a whole mobility as a service, not only the shuttles, when we know that we really need to develop technological progress for a real L4 with accordance with the local authorities or the European regulations that tend to reduce, the feasibility to deploy easily L4 because of regulation. But it is another topic.
Yeah, I just thought, Jeroen, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I just want to add one thing. There are more and more people in the world who have no access to private car ownership anymore. So OEMs need to acknowledge this, yeah, and they need to say, okay, these people who have no private car anymore, how are we going to transport these people? How can we help to create new forms of mobility? Yeah. And then I would suggest that they are talking with PTOs and PTAs who know how public transport works and to see how we can work together, because it's not an off-off or so. It is in working together. And public transport is not a competitor to a private car. But if you see youngsters today, they're not owning a private car anymore. It's very logical. There's a shift going on. If you're not acknowledging this shift, I don't know. I think we have to think in terms like this, but we need to do it together.
Torsten, you had a comment as well.
My answer to that question would be, actually we have to talk about how the strategy of the OEMs is and directly ask them about that. But I think when we talk to the OEMs regarding vehicles and combined with level 4 technology, they are not aware that there's a market within public transport. And I think we have to stress that there is a market, that vehicles will be sold when they are produced in the kind that we as public transport organizations need the vehicles to serve the mobility services that we want to provide. So I guess there's kind of a gap in between public transport companies and OEMs, which have, of course, another business model, but we should kind of, more working together and expressing the need that we rely on vehicles produced for these purposes.
Is that the USP you were urging for, the European unique selling point?
Yeah, of course. Vehicles that are produced for public transport is very different to what we see in other places that will focus on ride-hailing services, especially in the US. And I think that could be one of the USPs, that we also provide European vehicles that are especially designed for public transport in different sizes and for different means, yeah.
I think you made us on, and then Adrian.
Yeah, is that okay to adding some comment? Yeah. So I'd like to add some of the Jeroen's comment. So I fully agree with you. Because I'm working for the automobile company in Japan for a long time, so I definitely think the passenger cars are also necessary. So, but one thing that I'd like to point is that because Japan has a very kind of the aging society, and I think one of the leading company of the very high elderly people. And we have a serious problem of the elderly people, drivers has a lot of problem about the car accident by their passenger cars. So therefore, from my side, actually my father is around the 80 age, and their driving is getting a little bit scary, to be honest. So we urged him to remove their driving license, honestly speaking. So therefore, if we consider in the rural area, but still they are needed some the way of mobility. So therefore, I think to provide this kind of the elder people, also including the younger people, which before getting a driving license, as Jeroen mentioned. So we definitely need some alternative way for their mobility. So in that point of view, I think the public transportation is a very important role for that.
Adrian?
I was at a session yesterday afternoon. It was the one where the students were presenting their vision of AVs, and the question was asked around what would they'd like, and the answer came back very clearly. A shared mobility solution would be something that they would be looking for. And to your point, the car ownership is under challenge as a model, and I think OEMs need to understand that. Clearly, there will be people, car enthusiasts that will still want to drive, but there's be a large proportion of people that would like the car to drive themselves, and that then lends itself into this idea of fleets and how then do fleet business models appear. We've heard, from Mr. Musk and Tesla talking about robo-taxis, of having your own car and then let that become a taxi, and that may well be a model. But there will be another model where TPG has autonomous vehicles, and they provide that for both shared and for singular rides. I think the future is still quite cloudy, but we've got an opportunity to set the framework today.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, you stand up so you can.
Behind me. Okay. Oops.
That,
It has a cable on it. Okay. My name is Arno Burgess from Pantea. Maybe a question for all. What is the development of the TCO? What do you expect in the future? And what are the determining factors? As we know from demand that a network will create economies of scale once you develop demand. So it is kind of an interplay. Do you have any expectations on that from all the, whoever feels to answer this question, but do you have any idea of how the development will be in the future? And will this be, let's say, a more attractive solution, becoming a more attractive solution?
you were questioning about the total cost of ownership for these types of, yeah?
I maybe can answer or partially answer your question. So public transport is always loss-making. This is already a problem. When you're going to do on-demand driving, this is quite expensive. This is quite expensive. So this is also one of the reasons we want to take out a bus driver. Now, first of all, I have to tell you one thing. Public transport is mostly seen as that a vehicle is always come to pick you up in a place that you are not, to bring you to a place you don't want to go at a time that doesn't suit you, okay? So we have to solve this problem, and that's on-demand transport. But I'm not a VIP service, I'm not a taxi service. So I'm not going to drive you from your home to your exact destination. I do it from bus stop to bus stop, because otherwise I'm going to create too much demand, because then it's too easy, okay? I provide 10 minutes of ride comfort, that's public transport. So we need to think about this, yeah? And there's a possibility also to work with, if you have an on-demand system, to say the peaks of an on-demand are going to be catched up by Uber to work together. Yeah, these are the possibilities. And then to say, if we have AVs, as I showed before, and we can use them 22 hours a day, 7 days a week, how we can then maybe also include the transport of goods. You can even say it like this. Maybe in the future, I will be not a public transport operator anymore, but a mobility provider, yes, where I am going to transport logistics all day long on a non-priority basis, yes, and then when there is a person who needs a ride and it books a ride, then I will transport this person with priority. The other thing is also that if we speak about AVs, and we don't hear this so much, then there needs to be a company or an entity to supervise all these AVs. And if I have the expertise of supervising AVs for the transport of people, and also add vehicles, extra vehicles for the transport of goods, then maybe I can also add other types of vehicles, so street sweepers, for example. And so in the canton of Geneva, I will be not only the mobility provider, but the entity who supervises all automated vehicles. And then I can charge the canton for riding with the street sweepers, doing logistics for DHL, middle mile logistics and so on, with which I then try to make money to co-finance public transport. Maybe it partially answers your question. I hope so.
Emily, I'm curious to hear if you, from the vehicle provider perspective, would think about the total cost of ownership as well when you have the discussions with those, for example, those 3 sites that you were presenting, that you were present in.
Yes, what I was thinking of when I listened to your question, but here again, it is a different point of view, because in Navia, we really focus on public transport operators. Those are our main clients. So when you talk about the vision, what could be the vision, what we are working on, I'm not sure it totally answers your question, but please tell me if it's not the case. In the Ultimo project, we are working on what we call interoperability and implement the shuttles, the automated shuttles, in a mixed traffic, but also in a context, and we have already seen this, where public transport operators have different shuttles from different OEMs, and which means that we need to work on interoperability, having open API. I think you mentioned this, and open solutions that allow us to be deployed, not only Navia shuttles in a PTO, but with different other shuttles. So this is working. This is something that we are working on via funded projects. Yeah, I don't know if it does answer your question. If not, yeah, I can go on.
There was one question up there first, and then Wolfgang after that.
Thanks. Clémentine Barbier, I am from Keolis, so public transport operator. I have 2 questions. The first one is for Emily. On your graph, there was acceptation or opposition to AVs, and then a low impact, high impact. And I am quite surprised that the unions were on the low impact, because from my perspective, I think that they can have quite a big impact. So I wanted to know a bit more if it's measured impact or forecast. And my second question is to Adrian on the model that you are proposing with dedicated vehicles and also Uber like non-automated vehicles as well. Is who is paying for the service? Is it like the PTA that is paying Uber for the extra rides or not? Thanks.
Okay, first question first. I pulled up this slide here.
Yes. So I have no answer right now, Clémentine, to your question, to be honest. So concerning driver unions, yes, we are in the low and opposing, in terms of attitude, rather low, and in terms of impact, rather low. Probably it is, I don't know exactly why, but I assume that there has been some perhaps accidents, but I have no clear answer. I don't know if someone would like to add, but I can think of it and come back to you later.
Yeah, I think one point that is important to note here is this is 2020, it says, and that's 5 years ago. If I remember well, we were still in this hype idea before COVID, you know, that it was a super hype 2016, 17 until 20 about AVs. And because I was also surprised here to see that the manufacturers, the software developers are high impact. That if this is general public considering that, I guess it was a lot about the technology still during those days. That could be one suggestion to that. But yeah, I think the reference is there, and it would be interesting to look further into that. Will we take the other, who pays for that Uber?
Yes, yes. So the public transport agency pays, or the public transport operator, which then passes on the cost to the agency. But the way that this is constructed is important. So rides that are passed to Uber are only passed under certain circumstances. Costs are controlled because it's limited into particular areas. And so for the use case of Dallas, for example, the average cost of an Uber ride subsidy is around €8. So when you compare that to the cost per ride of a traditional on-demand service, it actually fits in quite well. But the transport agency is always in control in terms of when to pass out a ride. And again, in the Dallas example, they want to get near 99% ride fulfillment, but they're quite happy with a 10-15 minute wait time. So they optimize the minibus that's owned by them. But when in theory, a service failure, so an unfulfilled ride or the wait time is too long, then they'll use Uber to deliver that ride. And you can imagine the same thing happening in the world of AV, where there'll be a number of different fleets, and where demanding increases, and you cannot fit them into your fixed existing fleet. Being able to call on additional vehicles as and when required, and not having to pay for them, only pay for the ride, is quite an attractive business model.
So this is not dynamic pricing then. If you are the user of the on-demand service, you
pay the standard fare.
You pay, okay.
If I may, do you really have a 1% rejection rate? Do you have 99% rights that are provided, or it's congrats?
Wolfgang, you had a question too?
My question is to Jerome.
You just say who you are.
Okay, sorry, I'm Wolfgang from Ruprecht Consults. To Jerome, I like the idea of having a more flexible usage of the vehicles and also this multi-purpose approach with freight and passenger transport. We tried this in the region of Hanover with their Sprinty on-demand concept, which is more than 100 vehicles, already very successful for passengers in place. But when we discussed with the freight forwarders or the logistics people, it was really, really difficult. And so far, we don't really have a success because it's so little margins, it's so complex, even more complex than the passenger part. How do you approach the logistics world? Do you have a success factor for this, or?
Yeah, very, very good question also. The logistics problem is the following today. If you're going to deliver parcels at somebody's doorstep, then the delivery man always rings the bell and nobody is at home because everybody's working. and it's during the day. So parcels then are being brought back to a pickup point. So all the logistics companies for last mile service, they would prefer to remove a driver, a delivery man, who's going to your doorstep. And for this, there need to become a solution. And I hope that OEMs also listen to these talks, because I think it's up to them to do this. How could this work out? It's the following. What you saw in the video is that we want to transport a container filled up with goods. What you could do, for example, is that you say, okay, in this street, there are several people who bought shoes, other things, and so on. Then fill up a poodle box. This is the box, you know, with all the small compartments, exactly, which you can open with your QR code. If you do this in a dynamic hub, a dynamic container, and your AV is capable of transporting this and putting it on an empty parking spot in the street where all the people ordered something, and that they receive a message, and at the end of the day, they can pick up then their Zalando box or other, and then when the container is empty, the container is going to be picked up by an AV and brought back to the distribution center, then you're removing the delivery man. This is what logistics companies want, okay? But the vehicle doesn't exist. I traveled the world, I saw everything AVs, but this doesn't exist. So maybe this is then an option for an OEM. Sorry. That answers your questions a little bit? Okay.
Okay, one up there, and then it's your turn.
Maybe I should.
Oh, Nadine also, sorry. There was one person before. Nadine first.
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead then.
Okay. This vehicle exists. You can go to the low-level TRL demo place and have a look for this U-shift vehicle. It's exact what you need. Take the time.
Okay.
I will directly comment on this, because you probably, I saw the vehicle. You probably need to change all the time the vehicle, and this is not what I want, in fact. I want to transport a person from A to B and a container back from B to A. Okay, and that all the time. But
that's exactly the concept of this modular vehicle. You can change the capsules for goods and services as you want to put a.
You sort
we
that
have to
out
talk
afterwards.
later.
And who you are?
I'm Nadesh Fall from RATP, and we are the public transport operator of Paris. And I have a question for Umeda-san. I saw on your slide you had some projects with big buses, even level 4 buses. Are they still going on? And where are you in Japan with that kind of vehicles?
Sorry, Nadesh-san, can I confirm your question again?
Yes, I saw on your slide you have projects with big buses.
Yes.
So where are you with those projects? Are they still going on? And do you have something you can share with us about this?
Okay. So actually, there are several mid-size or big-size buses ongoing. So, and actually, our University of Tokyo is addressing one of this project in the Kashiwanoha area. This is not the fully kind of the public transportation, because this is connecting between the our railway train station to the our university campus. That means that moves the university staff and the students for the transportation. And another one is the deploying in the mid-size bus. Let's say is the Hitachi area. They are using the former railway. They after that, they removed the railway and they set the designated road for the automated driving bus, and they are operating as a public transportation. And I think that just started as a level 4 operation this last February, and they are still continuing.
Hello. Okay. Hi, I'm Nikolai from Bayern Innovativ. I have a question, I guess mainly for Thorsten and Jeroen. We've heard multiple times that labor shortage will be the main, or is the main driver for automated public transport. But if you look at least the German law on automated driving, the technical supervisor or the remote assistant should have a university degree or like an equivalent to a university degree. So is that not like a very high bar to set to actually tackle labor shortage? So my concrete question would be to you, what do you know already from your projects about the actual job profile of the remote assistant?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question, because I guess the main challenge is to kind of experience what technology can do and how the relation between how many supervisor we need for a fleet of shuttles, that's the main key in this discussion. And then it's not so important which degree the supervision will need to kind of control and monitor the whole fleet, but the number of people that are needed to operate such a service will decrease. So I guess, and also we see that we have more highly qualified people for these jobs that are available on the market than drivers that actually are in the buses today. So I guess the question is, what is the technology capable of, and what's the relation between technical supervision and number of vehicles in the fleet that could be operated and supervised. So, and this question is not answered yet, because we are kind of in the first further technology tests, and we will hopefully have a better view on that when we have done the project.
Let me just, before you, Jaren, I would be curious to hear Uber. Are you looking into remote also, how to use remote control traffic and getting rid of the drivers altogether?
I think we see it as a long-term transition. Drivers do a lot of other things apart from just driving. Certainly in the Uber business context, often they own the car, they insure the car, they clean the car. But also from the passenger perspective, it's going to be fine for many passengers to take an autonomous vehicle, and clearly there's cost benefits from that. But there'll also be many passengers that actually will still want a driver to maybe help them in and out of the car, or to help them with bags, or to transport a child, for example. I mean, there's so many different types of use cases. So we do see this as a kind of, I suppose, a long-term transitional period as we move from driver in and gradually move driver out for various different circumstances. Although I did hear in the US that Waymo is being used as a birthday party treat for kids to take them to and from events. So there's another use case we can add in.
Sorry to hijack the question, but I think that's interesting to hear how that is viewed. And I completely agree. You can't just dump people when they are in point B and you're on your own. You have to ensure that the purpose of the trip is fulfilled. Jaren, you had a short final comment there?
Just an add-on on what we are doing, of course. I'm a PTO. I don't deliver technology. I deliver services. So what we do currently in our DRT system, where we have bus-driven minibuses, we're going to add on AVs to test them. And the idea is that in one moment we have like 2 supervisors for 8 vehicles. Not 1 for 4, but 2 for 8. So this is what we are doing. We're not only going to introduce AVs. We always have 1 vehicle in the system with a driver. It's the assistance vehicle. Because when you have somebody in a wheelchair, we want to deliver a service. If one moment your wife is traveling to the airport with 5 suitcases, she needs to have service, she needs to be helped. So it's an assistance vehicle, yeah? And it's very easy. If you need assistance, either you're in the application, you had made an inscription that you always need assistance, or just the day that you need assistance, you ask for assistance. It's this bus-driven vehicle which comes to pick you up. Otherwise, it's an AV. We deliver services, and there are different kinds of services. Yes.
Our rapporteur has a question too, and then we have a final question after that.
Well, a short comment. I think they were all very interesting and to the point questions. I would like to summarize a point that I'll try to answer some of them. So the question about business model is crucial, as well as the total cost of ownership. And what we need to, and how the legacy OEMs could support the transition to shared mobility services. What we need to understand is that the financial total cost of ownership of shared mobility service, of public transport, will always have a deficit. And it will have a deficit simply because it serves not only certain market demand, but it serves other purposes like, for example, going beyond to rural areas or serving certain social groups that have issues in accessing opportunities. In that case, the societal total cost of ownership is positive, okay? The question is, who pays for that? So who will pay for this technology, for the technology in order that you will have level 4? And that was the question from the guy. Legacy OEMs will not do that because there's no market and the financial TCO is negative. In that case, apparently, it is all of us that need to pay because this will come back to us. And how we pay for that? Through our taxes. And who will handle that? It's policymakers. And how this can support companies? It can incubate new companies like Navia, for example, that will allow these societal services to be run in the future. So it is a crucial role for the policymakers to ensure that taxpayer money will continue to support and give this business model live for the years to come. Thank you.
May I add 2 little things? I fully agree with you. There are 2 things. First of all, if today a person acquires his private own car, pays for the maintenance, insurance, and everything, then it's him who pays for his mobility. Now he is going to say, I don't want to own a car anymore. Is he going to use the same amount of money for his new mobility needs? No. So there is already a thing. Then the second point is, if you go to the World Bank and you see what are the priorities at the World Bank, it's not education. It is mobility. Because without mobility, you cannot go to work, you cannot go to school. So it goes far and beyond on everything. Mobility is good for economy, it's good for healthcare, societal changes and so on. So mobility as an all, we have to look at to see it in a bigger picture. And this we can probably co-solve with CCAM.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we will need to cut anyway. Thanks a lot, Dimitris, for summing up the discussion. Now I would like to hear the final 3 words from each of the panelists here to wrap this up now, because we're already nearing the end here. So what is your ideal AV service of the future? 3 words to describe that. Adrian.
Mixed autonomous fleets.
Thank you. That sums up your presentation nicely. And Torsten?
Within public transport.
Jaron, 3.
Don't think when transported.
And what is Emily's 3 words?
Safety, regulation, harmonization, and interoperability.
Right. Umeda-san, 3 final words.
Yeah, daily means of mobility for citizens. Sorry, it's not a 3 words.
And I have 4 words as well to end this presentation. That is, thank you very much